now on Highfield Road, and actually the Greendale Fault runs right through here, and it caused quite a lot of land movement. Nick, can you tell us about that?
There was a lot of land movement. This is what we call a strike-slip fault. So what's happening here is there are two plates or two sides of the fault slipping past each other. So most of the movement is horizontal. There was about 4 metres horizontal movement. There was also a little bit of vertical up and down movement. There was about 1.5 metres of that.
And if you look at this road, you can actually see that. Some people that were driving along here every day now have to be much more careful because, of course, it used to be straight and flat, but it isn't anymore. So you talk about this movement. How do people actually know that this movement has occurred? How do they measure it?
In the first case, in the immediate hours and days after the earthquake, it was just simple technology like tape measures, getting out and actually measuring with a tape measure how much features such as fences, roads and shelter belts had moved. Later on, in the days, weeks and months following the earthquake, we used GPS, which is a surveying technology, and that gets a much higher precision. So the tape measure is good as a first cut, but later on we go back and measure things more accurately.
Okay, and of course this movement's not just on the surface, is it? How deep is the fault?
So the fault that ruptured, the epicentre was about 10 kilometres down, and so there are different levels of movement depending how far beneath the earth you are. So you can think of it maybe as a series of Lego blocks, and so there's the movement on the surface, and that's what we can measure, but beneath the surface there's all sorts of other movements going on. So the magnitude of the movement 10 kilometres down would be greater than we see here on the surface, and that is why when some earthquakes happen you don't actually see anything on the surface, but there are still things happening down below.
Yeah, and of course that obvious movement on the surface does have a huge impact on, say, fences and roads and all those sort of things, and we'll look more at those impacts tomorrow. We're now going to move on and find out how surveyors do some of their measurements and what reference points they use.